888-866-9139.
Coast to coast, direct from Austin. You're listening to the Alex Jones Broadcasting Network.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
We were live here Friday. We're live today on this Monday edition, 29th day of September 2014. Before we knew any details of the beheading and attempted beheading, wounding of another woman at a factory facility up in Oklahoma, and it wasn't hard to guess that it would be connected to radical Islam. But you see the media response since it's come out that indeed that's what happened, to trying to cover it up. And I'm not one here calling for a Cold War with Muslims. I'm not an Islamophobe. Everybody knows that. But at the same time, when you have a real radical Islamic offensive that we've been talking about for a long time, 4 years at least, being launched worldwide and being funded by the highest levels of NATO and Western governments, you've got to ask, what's the end game plan here? Well, it's to bring in basically martial law under the name security. I mean, I was listening to local talk radio today. I was watching the news this morning and over the weekend. They were saying, oh, looks like those military equipment are needed to fight ISIS. Looks like it was the right thing to do. Was it military equipment, armored vehicles, checkpoints, NSA surveillance that stopped Alton Noland, who tried to chop 2 women's heads off and successfully chopped 1 woman's head off before being shot by the CEO of the facility, who had his concealed carry and mitigated it? Money on it, this guy would have probably stabbed 10, 15 people. And, of course, you could go look Saturday, and they already had found his Facebook with him showing off with the Islamic State flag and the rest of it, promoting Islamic State. And they were on CNN this morning saying, gee, we wonder if it's connected to any of that. Oh, my goodness, we don't know. He is literally, in the last 6 months, been radicalized, hanging around with these people. He was a football enthusiast / Oklahoma Christian 6.5 months ago on his Facebook post, and then got immersed in a, quote, radical mosque. So he kind of went from being a football player, godfather, thug life type guy, somebody who was on the edge, wanting to be tough, wanting to be a man. And I've pointed out that the way they use Facebook and Twitter, we're really seeing trendies with ISIS patches. We're really seeing it because celeb. We're really seeing it being promoted and pushed by the Muslim Brotherhood. And out of Kenya through Obama's cousins and half-brother and others, we really are seeing Google behind the Arab Spring and our government trying to overthrow the former Egyptian dictatorship of Hosni Mubarak to put something in far worse. And then our media criticizing the military after a year of tyrannical rule by the Muslim Brotherhood. Something like 20 million Egyptians hit the streets protesting it. So the military took back over, stopped letting them burn down all the churches and crucify people. And our media, CNN, actually criticized it. So let's get one thing straight here. The people running our government, the special interest, are protecting, are funding, are shepherding, are opening the door for radical Wahhabist Islam to launch a jihad worldwide. And the whole buildup of Homeland Security in the last 12, 13 years was in preparation for this, so that we will accept the police state takeover, which will then be flipped onto the liberty movement. Now, I told you that before it happened 13 years ago. It's now happened. You've now seen the flip begin. But they need another push to get the cops, the military, everybody to go along with it, so that they get in place, get accustomed to going through the motions before they publicly stage false flags in America and turn them loose on anybody who isn't a communist or a sympathizer with the globalist. We're going to break it all down straight ahead. Bellying up to this nightmaric bonanza, this virtual cornucopia of craziness. But sticking our heads in the sand will only make it worse. So that's why we're here, to break it down as a radar system and to try to navigate the planet terra firma approaching its carrying capacity for 7,350,000,000+ souls aboard this planetoid. So fantastic to be here. Again, I'm extremely honored to be your host, but it's even more fantastic, obviously, to be a conscious, sentient being experiencing this existence with all of you. We are all truly brothers and sisters in that experience, no matter which side we serve. So always remember how epic consciousness is. The system, first and foremost, seeks to shudder the mind, to make you feel pointless and weak, and to make you bored, and to make you only tune in to their attempt at false reality that is the state-run media and the controlled Hollywood culture. It is an attempt for them to force you into their artificial consciousness, their system of total control. And this revolt that I am only a small part of is truly a revolt demanding free will and for the self-determination to at least be able to make some of the basic decisions governing all of our individual and, yes, collective destinies as a species. I am honored to be here. Thank you so much. The news websites are Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Obviously, we have Obama coming out saying that they underestimated Islamic State threat. Islamic State was built by NATO, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, basically everyone in the Middle East but Iran and Syria and Egypt and Libya. Doesn't matter if a country was our ally or neutral, it's been overthrown and handed over to Islamic State, known as Al-Qaeda, known as Wahhabists, known as Sunni radical arm, the paramilitary takeover arm of Saudi Arabia. And this is all being done because they know the military finally clicked, finally had a paradigm moment when the light bulb ignited above the head and realized, oh my gosh, there's a global shadow corporate chaos organization that consolidates power out of worldwide crises that is protecting and shepherding radical Islam. And we don't want to be part of it. And so once this force had been turned loose, now they have to have some staged bombings of it to try to get the narrative back to Homeland Security and the other Homeland Security systems in Australia, England, Germany, you name it. They need to now legitimize, not just to us, but to their own people who are really now sitting back decompartmentalizing. So we have that. We have a little small hors d'oeuvre with 36 confirmed dead when a volcano erupted in Japan, spewing ash and toxic fumes. By comparison, in the reports I've got here, they estimate that the Yellowstone volcano, the supervolcano, the biggest known in the world, there's several, but it's now active. I want to say that again, active. And with their computer algorithms, they estimate it will erupt soon. Now, that means the next 100 years, but now it's moving even quicker. They think it erupts every few million. That it is between 10 and 20,000 times bigger than what this volcano eruption was. Hundreds of times bigger than Mount St. Helens, covering more than half the United States in molten ash, changing the climate of the planet, sending us into a dark age. It erupted 2.1 million years ago, 1.3 million years ago, 640,000 years ago, according to the isotope readings. The biggest eruption was 640,000 years ago. And I'm not saying this is imminent in a human lifetime scale, but it just shows you when they say we need to have stable climate and pay a UN body and Homeland Security domestically, quote, prosecute green crimes of not throwing your recycling away or whatever, that it has nothing to do with protecting anybody. And everything about surveilling and micromanaging every facet of our lives as a world unifying religion that isn't even based on real, sensible environmental crises and problems that are happening that need to be dealt with. It's a cover for all of